There is a new tool that can help you become more informed and not inflamed. It is delivered right to your email every morning. Plus, you can be involved with this information startup. We will talk to Annafi, one of the co-founders of the Flipside.
Informed, non-inflamed. Politics.
And hi, everyone. John Daly here. Welcome to Informed, Not Inflamed. My guest this morning is Annafi. She is the co-founder of the Flipside. Annafi, welcome.
Hi, John. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. So I am now a subscriber to the Flipside, and folks, I urge you to do the same. Annafi, what you do, or what you try to do, was what I try to do on my news pages, covering all sides of an issue. So the Flipside is a morning email that gives you left and right. Give us some details on what goes on behind the scenes in producing the Flipside.
Sure. So the Flipside is my effort at trying to bridge the gap between liberals and conservatives. So during the 2016 election, and especially afterwards, I think a lot of people realized that they were living in their own filter bubbles or echo chambers, whatever terminology you want to use. And at the same time that there were 1,000 op-eds being written about the evils of Facebook and Twitter and other social media, I didn't really see any solutions out there for the average person to actually get news from the quote-unquote other side, the flip side, if you will. So what we do at the flip side is we choose one topic a day, and we go out and read 20 op-eds from the far left to the far right, and we choose quotes from each op-ed that we think, add value to the discussion. And it's all packaged for you in one 5-minute read each morning. So you can feel good about getting caught up in the news, but also opening your mind to ideas you may not have otherwise seen on your own.
Wow, so many questions I want to ask you. So you cover only one issue each day. Why and how do you decide which issue?
Great question. We do think it gets more complicated if you have, say, 5 different topics, because what we want to do is we want to give people thoughtful, nuanced perspectives on the issues. And that's really hard to do in a 5-minute newsletter for more than one topic. We sometimes used to do 2 topics at a time, but then it was, sort of surface level, like, oh my God, this is the greatest idea ever, or oh my gosh, this is the worst idea ever, right? Rather than just keeping it at that level, we go deeper and say, wait, why is this new policy good or bad? Oh, it has implications for national security and the economy, and, there are humanitarian concerns. So we want to delve deep into each topic because I think even when people look at the facts, they view the facts very differently. What lens are you coming at it from? That's what we want to do at the flip side, deliver more than just the headline reactions you see on Twitter. And that's hard to do for multiple topics if we want to keep it to a 5-minute read.
Now, what's fascinating to me is that your team spends 8 hours of research to give me a 5-minute email on one topic. Now, to me, that just tells you how complicated our news and information world has become. Do you feel like you're trying to stop an avalanche with a shovel?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes there's a breaking news story and there's so much information out there and we don't necessarily know what's true or not. So we fact check to the extent that we can, but sometimes we take the cautious road and don't cover breaking news if we don't feel comfortable in our fact checking. So, for example, if you remember the Covington High School student fiasco where there was a photo that sort of went viral with a Native American fellow with the drums and a high school kid wearing a MAGA hat, and everybody had an initial reaction that was very negative. And we wanted more information. So we didn't cover that story, which we actually got some emails about, hey, this is the biggest story trending on Twitter. Why aren't you covering this? And thank God we didn't, because it would have been a lot of false and misleading information. So one of the things we do is we fact check all of the op-eds. We make sure that there are, in fact, enough thoughtful op-eds and commentary out there for us to be able to choose, right? We read 20 op-eds, but we only give you quotes from, 5 or 6 on each side. So we want to make sure there are good stuff to choose from, not just people having an initial reaction without having done that research. So, for example, if an article is citing a study, we actually go and read the study to see if the article is accurately reflecting the results of the study. You have a lot of journalists who don't understand basic statistics. So you have the scientists who are, working really hard to make clear what the conclusions are and what they aren't, and then the journalists take the scientists' words and then, notch it up 10 levels to say, oh, the new study shows blah, 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 when in fact, those connections are tertiary at best.
Okay, you've hit a couple of topics there that I'm going to ask you questions a little later. So bear with me. I'm going to come back to a couple of the things that you just hit there. Can you tell me, do you think you're actually reaching people, or better yet, can you tell if you are getting people who are on one side to at least consider the other side? Are you seeing anything as far as that goes?
Sure, that's a great question. So, we have nearly 20,000 subscribers just via word of mouth and earned media. It's been a bootstrapped operation, what they call sweat equity in Silicon Valley. But we do feel like we're reaching people, and we've seen that evidence across multiple ways. The first is we actually sent our readers a survey. We received, over 300 responses. People said, hey, it helps me have political conversations with my aunt, with my granddaughter. Oh, my husband and I argue about politics all the time, and the Flipside actually helps us get to the deeper issues. We also get a lot of emails. Our readers are very engaged. Whenever there's, even a slight misstep, if we missed a really good op-ed or we didn't cover one aspect of the situation, people do email us from both sides, which is really great. And obviously we've done, user interviews to say, hey, how are you feeling about the flip side? And actually a lot of people say that it's refreshing, that it helps calm them down, because if you turn on cable news, people are constantly screaming, and we genuinely try to keep a, even tone to our, one sentence summaries, to the quotes we choose. We're not looking to become clickbait. So I do strongly feel that we're reaching people to at least acknowledge that there are valid viewpoints on the other side. We're not in the business of converting anyone, just to help them see things from other people's perspectives.
You are preaching my language of my first book called Truth and OBS Guide to Navigating a Media-Biased World. I always say you never lose a friend over politics, and you guys are hitting it out of the ballpark. Okay, folks, we are talking with Annafi Wahed. She is the co-founder of The Flipside, a morning email that gives you both the left and the right. You can sign up for free. Here's the website, www.theflipside.io. Now, as you know, Annafi, and a lot of people know, I post a lot of news on my Facebook and Twitter sites. I get a lot of criticism because I'll post pieces that either fringe on the left or the right, or mainstream media articles that are then either retracted or altered because of potential factual errors. Now, you just talked about this before. This is one of the things I want to come back to. Are there articles or columns you will not print because you don't know that they're true or not? And I think you kind of answered that before, but go over that with me. Or do you err on the side of letting the public know what's out there? Sure.
That's a good question. So we do not give a platform to anything that is false or deliberately misleading. So, to take an extreme example, the Pizzagate, right? Some crazy person said that Hillary Clinton is involved in a pedophile ring, yada, yada, yada. We would never give a platform to ridiculous, crazy stories. We also try to verify every information that's given in a commentary. And if we can't, even if we think it's a good piece, we tend to side on the air of caution and, not cite that publication, because the last thing we want to do is add to the noise, add to this, world of fake news that we're living in. So, if it's a publication we haven't heard of, but it pops up in our, various news feeds, then we do try to collaborate that information. We research the author, we research the publication. But, given that myself, my co-founder, the rest of the contributor team, we're all news junkies, it's unlikely that we come across a publication that nobody has heard of before.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about your background and how you and your business partner got involved in this. And you were actually in the world of finance, which I find fascinating because of what you just said before. And there are many times when a journalist will analyze a report and they get it completely wrong, or reports are put out by, the Supreme Court, and they write them in such a way, a legalese, that reporters can't figure it out. And I've got to think the same way with economics too, and finance. Tell me about how you went from a finance background into this.
Oh, wow. My gosh, that's such a good question. So, Yeah, I worked in finance for 4 years after college, and it was not my calling. It was never my calling. But, I'm an immigrant kid, a high performer, but not smart enough to go into medicine. So I decided to choose the path of least resistance. I'm good at numbers, so I went into finance, spent 2 years at the FDIC as a bank regulator, then another 2 years in consulting at Ernst & Young, got my CFA. I was on the top of the mountain. I had just gotten the CFA charter. I was up for manager, and I was miserable, just so miserable, working all the time, just finding myself, checking my phone to catch up on the campaign. It was 2016 at that time. And, just not at all interested in my day-to-day job. And I figured it was the summer of 2016. There were only, 4 or 5 months before the election. So I thought, oh my gosh, I should go be part of history. I should go help elect the first female president. And I had a few friends who worked for the Obama campaign. They had an awesome time. So I, kicked in my heels, put on Converse sneakers, went up to New Hampshire to knock on doors for Hillary Clinton. And that's where I really caught the bug. Oh my gosh, politics is so important for so many reasons. I was very much living in my liberal bubble in New York City. I knew Republicans in New York, but they were all voting for Hillary Clinton. So there I am, fish out of water in rural New Hampshire, talking to farmers, talking to, to people who ask me, oh, what's the big city like? And I grew up in New York, so I don't know any other life. And I sort of, came face to face with the realities of other Americans. And I thought, oh, okay, I see it now. And this whole other world opened. And then after the election, I said, okay, what do I wish I, Annafi, working 80 hours in consulting and exhausted all the time, what do I wish I had had in 2016 so I wasn't so flabbergasted at the election results? And my friends were asking the same thing. How do we break out of our bubbles? So the Flipside was sent to 16 of my friends the first day. Just a few months in, I found my co-founder who's been with us since the early days. So we've been working together for 2 years now. He is a staunch conservative. He volunteered for the Romney campaign, public policy genius. And yeah, it was sort of match made in heaven.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this, because someone's going to raise this question. You say he's a conservative. He worked for Romney. Obviously, you lean to the left. Is anybody on your staff pro-Trump?
I mean, my co-founder voted for Trump. He has a MAGA hat.
Ah, okay. And that works okay in the office?
It absolutely does. What we used to say, oh, we're unbiased, we're trying to be nonpartisan, but then we realized, wait, that's not true at all. What we are is that we're equally biased, right? So I bring my liberal bias, he brings his conservative bias, and we have a team of contributors. I would say probably half of them voted for Donald Trump, and the other half who didn't. We all bring our own biases, and the magic is that we're all reading the articles and trying to talk with each other to say, hey, this article you cited on the right doesn't make sense, and vice versa. The idea is that, I read the conservative side and he reads the liberal side, and our contributors do the same to try and assess, okay, what argument is actually convincing to, my people, quote unquote, right? So it's, for example, when we talk about immigration, right? The left says undocumented immigrants, the right says illegal immigrants. That's a simple example of the lexicon that gets lost when people are trying to have a conversation. So we try to be true to the language of each side while simultaneously deciding, okay, which of these 5 arguments that one side is making will appeal to the other side? And that's what we try to highlight in the flip side.
What's interesting, there's an organization that brings a bunch of voters together who don't know each other from the far left and the far right, and they have a confab, and I can't remember the name of it now, but they've just done stories on it, how they all kind of come together and they end up talking.
Is it Better Angels?
I think it is Better Angels, yes. Now, what I'm thinking is, what a great TV show to put a camera in while your staff on the flip side is going through everything and discussing everything.
It's not as interesting as it sounds, because the one thing we all have in common is that we're very analytical people. So it's mostly us saying, hey, this article is citing this study that was done 3 years ago. Can you go check if what they're saying is correct? Oh, they're saying unemployment numbers are this. Well, let's check, the wage gap. Let's check what's happening with the rest of the labor statistics. we're pretty lame, but sometimes we do have very fun conversations.
Okay, we are talking with Annafi Wahed, who is the co-founder of the Flipside. It's a morning email that she says is very boring, that gives you both the left and the right side. But I can tell you it is very good. I signed up for it. You can sign up for it for free. And again, it's at www.theflipside.io. One of the things that I feel like I'm trying to do the people's work, even though I'm no longer a journalist. I still feel like I'm a journalist. I try to bring across both sides of an issue more in depth. To me, it's always been my calling since I was a newspaper reporter all the way up to the time I was a news anchor and investigative reporter. So I still feel it in my bones. What keeps you guys going?
Wow. I think the debates are what keep us going, right? So you brought up earlier, I actually forgot to answer your question, which was how do we choose a topic? That in and of itself can be biased, right? There are sometimes when one side is focused on one thing and the other side is focused on the other thing. For example, one side always wanted to cover the Mueller investigation. The other side always wants to cover the economy, let's say, right? Again, easy example just to highlight what goes into the topic choice itself. And, I will look at my personal Twitter feed, my personal Facebook, and see one thing. And I will, go onto our Slack channel and say, hey, let's definitely cover X, Y, Z. And, the quote-unquote conservative side is always like, wait, what? Well, I haven't even heard that story. So the idea that even we are living in bubbles that we wouldn't even know about unless we were forced to interact as a team is telling that this really needs to be, bigger than we are. This really isn't, oh my gosh, I'm a news junkie, but rather this news, the problem of media bias has gotten so bad that we're essentially just living in different realities. Whether you're talking about Jussie Smollett or you're talking about, just some news stories really trend on one side but not the other. And then you saw what happened this weekend with, Ellen DeGeneres being attacked for, sitting next to George Bush during a, I don't even know what sport. Yep. Football game?
Football.
Football, all right. And, they're private citizens, talking in their free time. They're not having a public policy discussion. They're not working in government anymore. We really see this split between the two sides as existential, really. That sounds lofty, but it really feels like sometimes that's what's at stake.
I would agree. I brag about the fact that 14 months before Trump was elected, I actually predicted him. One of the things is that I read a lot. And I read a lot of books on what was going on in the country, what was going on, especially after the financial crisis. I also, because I got a chance to travel the country, so I was in a lot of different regions. And I was in Ohio, and all I saw were Trump signs. I never saw a Hillary sign. And I was very suspicious of the fact that Hillary was doing rallies in California and New York all the time. So to me, people say to me, wow, you're really smart. No, I'm not really smart. I'm just a little bit more aware of what's going on because I read and I kind of watch what's going on. I think that's what you guys are doing, and that's why I love what you're doing. And when I read the morning Flipside, you guys get me stuff that I think I'm really well informed, and you guys get me stuff that I haven't seen before that I think is really cool. So I just applaud you for what you're doing, and definitely keep it up.
Thank you. That's why we do a deep dive, because we want to make sure that we're adding value, right? I think a lot of people see headlines and they sort of just tune it out, but we want to do a deep dive on one thing at a time, mostly because in the attention economy, people just jump from one thing to the other. And we really just want people to slow down and actually digest what's happening, whether it's immigration policy or, the Fed raising interest rates or so many other important things that are happening at the national stage.
Yeah, and I just think there's a lot of people out there who will look at what we might consider mainstream media or the elites or whatever, and they just don't believe it, and nobody asks them, and we don't understand what they're thinking. And the fact that you can get out there, that there are journalists and reporters who are out in the rural areas, who are out in the hinterlands, and we need to listen to them all. We're just, unfortunately, we're getting too much New York, LA, or Washington, D.C., And I think that's kind of what you're concentrating on. Like when you were talking about when you were with the Hillary campaign, that there were pockets of people that just weren't being heard from, but you heard from them when they voted, and that's kind of what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yep.
Now there's an opportunity for people to become more involved besides just subscribing to the Flipside. Talk about your funding goals and how people out there can help.
Sure, great question. Like I said, we're a bootstrapped operation. We are raising our first round of funding. So, if you're an angel investor or a high net worth individual interested in becoming an angel investor, please reach out. If you want to contribute in smaller ways, we have a Patreon account. We do have over 200 of our readers who are so generously contributing monthly. We really appreciate it. It keeps the lights on. It pays for all of our technical needs. So once you become a subscriber, there'll be a link to donate at the bottom with our Patreon link.
Okay, since I do have people who do follow me who are angel investors, who are investor types, how would they reach you to try to get on board?
Oh, well, they can shoot me an email directly, Annafi, that's Annafi, my first name, at theflipside.io.
All right, there you have it. We have been talking with Annafi Wahed, who is the co-founder of The Flipside, a morning email that gives you both the left and the right, and the middle too. You can sign up for free at www.theflipside.io. Annafi, thank you so much, and hopefully we can be a part of your team, because I think the war for solid information is out there, and this was a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, John. Keep up the good work.
All right, and folks, thanks for joining us. You can see my post at Informed Not Inflamed, or go to my Facebook page, which is Informed Not Inflamed, and my Twitter site, which is at John Daily News. We will talk to you next time.
For more on John Daly, go to informednotinflamed.com.